Bornhack. Let's give him a round of applause before he begins.
Thank you. Okay, well, I was asked to do a talk this year, and I always talk about my DNS service or about something technical or something, technical. And this is going to be a bit different. I spent most of my years since the last Bornhack organizing Bornhack and related stuff, and that's the thing that's been taking up most of my time, and that's been most on my mind. So it seemed obvious to do a talk about that. I've always been pretty good with systems and computers, like most of us here are, and we can usually, if we find some task we need to do, we hack up some code or some hardware or something to do it for us to make the work easier. And I've come to realize by doing this that the same methods can often be applied when dealing with people. There is quite a bit of low-key social engineering going on when organizing an event like this, because you need everybody to cooperate, and sometimes you need to explain things to them in a way so they understand it in the way you need them to. Right. 2 years ago, we got the idea for Bornhack. I've been doing hacker camps since 2009, and we started out as a group of friends. We're still a group of friends. Basically, the village we usually go to the larger hacker camps with is more or less the organizing team behind Bornhack. There's at least quite a substantial overlap. So since 2009, we've been visiting these hacker camps with a larger and larger village, and we've been building up, buying colored lights and smoke machines and stupid stuff for our tents, and basically getting more and more involved in the whole hacker community and the hacker camp community. And over the following years, we've been falling more and more in love with the idea of this. It's an awesome way to spend a week, to sleep in a tent and watch a bunch of talks and talk to like-minded people and get drunk in a bar. I could not think of a better way to spend my time. So since the big European events, CCC, and the Dutch string of events are 2 years in between, we got kind of lonely in the meanwhile, and sitting at something called the camp, which is a small Danish hacker camp with a maximum 50 participants. A few years ago, we decided to finally make the move and start our own camp. Those of you who were here last year know that it went pretty well, but and which is of course why we're here now, and we already have the dates on the website for 18 and 19. So we are very much looking forward to continuing to make Bornhack. I'm gonna tell you a bit about last year's event in no particular order, and then I'll talk a little bit about the systems we have built to the website you've all been using to buy your tickets and stuff, how we built it, why we built it the way we did, and later what we had to change. We had to change a bunch of things when we decided to do another Bornhack after last year. But all in all, 2016 went very well, considering that none of us had ever tried this before. We just basically kind of decided to do it and found a place and announced it and found some speakers and just kind of did it. Okay. So our website, the first thing we needed was a website, of course, last year. And we've been, a couple of the organizers are working with Django a lot, including myself. So it was natural to build a Django website. Our web shop is something we built ourselves. We considered a whole bunch of pre-made web shops because this problem is obviously solved many times, but we couldn't really find any that suited us. Mostly blockchain payments were missing from a lot of them, and a few other things. So we decided it would be faster to build it ourselves. And it worked excellent last year. We sold tickets and merchandise and everything on it, and it spits out the invoices with the legal requirements we have in Denmark, and it straight into our accounting bookkeeping system. So it works very well. All in all, the site was nice, but it wasn't. It was basic. It was very basic last year. We also had some supporting systems like Mailman for the mailing lists and MediaWiki, which is something I think almost all events probably use, very common software. We use Ansible to configure all the servers, so in case I'm not around, because I'm the guy with the login, people with access to the Ansible host can reconfigure and deploy new code and do stuff, so we're not dependent on one person, and there's a complete audit trail of everything that's been done in the Ansible configuration and in the log files, which is very nice. I could do a whole talk on the infrastructure alone, but I'll just briefly touch upon the little bit like a headline thing and with a little anecdote here and there. Okay, so yeah, like I said, we built a web shop from the bottom, which is not a big thing when you already have Django up and running. It's a few forms and a few tables, but the payment providers can be a bit of a hassle to deal with. Mostly it's legal red tape, like stuff like we couldn't get permission to accept credit cards on our website before I transferred the domain, which was in my name, to the company's name, because then if you don't have the domain name registered to the same company that has the payment agreement, then you're not allowed to, and a whole bunch of little weird things like that. That all need to be sorted before we could. We also needed to find a lawyer and get some terms done, and they needed to be in English, and they needed to be tailored to an event, not like a regular web shop. So we had to contact a lawyer and get him to write something in English for us. We managed to get it all working, including the blockchain payments, which we are pretty happy about. We have our payment providers called Coinify, and they support like 15 different blockchains, which is very nice because, yeah, of course, people on hacker camps like cryptocurrencies, and of course we like to accept them. We early on had to talk to some people about insurance, because when you do something like this, in case this tent falls down on our heads, or something catches fire, or something horrible happens and the building, I don't know, earthquake or plane crashes into the camp, something big happens, then of course you need to be insured, because we as organizers wouldn't be able, the company behind Bornhack doesn't have the funds to, if something big happens, to the damage to the tent or whatever. So all these things are not very hackerish. They're very, very boring office type, legal type things, but they of course need to be sorted out before all the fun can start. A bit more fun was talking to the food vendor and going down to him and trying all his all his menu items one at a time, because we had to do pictures of them. So we basically just ordered one of each and started eating after we took the pictures. So that was a bit more fun. And the food vendor was pretty busy last year because the food area was not very well equipped. The food area is much better equipped this year, so people can cook for themselves if they prefer. But all that had to be sorted. We had to figure out how to. When you're that small, as small as we were last year, there's a limit when it becomes much easier to get food vendors, because when you have enough people, the food vendor will pay you in order to be allowed to go there. But when we are small enough, the food vendor will almost always lose money by going here, because he will have more customers at his regular site. So we had to find a guy and sweet talk him and make an agreement with him. And it turned out that the people here eat so much that he made more money than he usually does in his regular spot. So that is very nice. And he is it's the same guy we have this year. We're really happy about him. And he was nice and honest enough to tell me after 3 days last year or something that he wouldn't need any extra payment apart from what he was making, because he made enough money. And it's very nice that the locals that we're working with are friendly and honest and decent. They just really appreciate that we're showing up over here and doing something. So that's very nice. A funny story about Simon is that the food vendor is that he sells the chocolate milk, the Danish Kokyo. And last year, a few months before he arrived at Bornhack, he accidentally ordered way too much Kokyo for some reason. And he was afraid it was going to go off because he would never get rid of it. And after 3 days at Bornhack last year, he had to order more because it was all gone. So apparently nerds like chocolate milk to their sausage. That's nice. We also had to get a bar up and running, of course, so you have somewhere to go when you are all hacked out. And Sarah and the bar team did an amazing job getting the bar up and running in the middle of nowhere. We literally started out with an empty forest and some rafts and some tarps and some colored lights and some stuff later. And we had an awesome bar last year, and it's already. I mean, those of you who have been down there, it's already taking shape, but it's kind of, it was last year at least, an iterative process. They built on it every day. So even the last day last year when I came down, there was new stuff that had been put up just before they had to take it all down, which is kind of nice. It's like the same way we develop software today, these days, like a little bit of the time. We're not allowed, we don't have the proper permits to accept cards, which is why we needed the payment provider on the website, and we need the same thing for the bar because for the same reasons. It is very hard to get approved for accepting credit cards. So we do it through a Swedish company called iSettle, which has a very nice service where you get the device and install an app on the phone, and they talk over Bluetooth. And if you've bought some hacks or something with the card here, you've tried it. It works very well, and the devices are cheap and their fees are cheap, and they have the agreement with their payment provider or whatever. We don't need a lengthy approval process and stuff. We just use theirs. So it's very convenient for us and works very well. That's awesome. The bar wound up making us a bit of money last year, which is about what we needed to break even, which was unexpected. We expected the bar just to break even, but people were good at drinking alcohol. So that was very nice, because the budget, of course, on these events is entirely dependent on people using the things here and not going to the grocery market and buying all their stuff. Of course, goes without saying. So and that was very nice to see that people actually used the bar and loved being in the bar. It was full every night, which made us some profits, which made sure that we didn't run a deficit last year. We just barely made break even in the 2016 accounts, which is awesome, and of course also due to our financial sponsors. But the takings from the bar certainly didn't hurt either. So that's very nice. So remember to go to the bar and get a soda or a mate or a drink or a beer. Right, the badge. We have been going to these events, like I said, for years, and when I went to one the first time and got a badge, I didn't even know I was gonna get a badge, and it was so awesome, this little piece of custom electronic device that you can do stuff to and hack and modify and see what all the other people did to it and stuff. I think it's brilliant. But last year we had almost no budget for it. We had the budget for the badges last year was 15 kroners per badge, which is a ridiculously small amount of money. It is like €2. So, but those of you who saw the badges last year, they were very nice. It was a circuit called a Jewel Thief, which is designed to empty a battery that's already flat completely. So if you have like a AA battery from a remote control that doesn't work anymore because it's flat, then you can put it into this Jewel Thief circuit, and it can power a pretty powerful LED for a small flashlight for 48 hours or something. It is a pretty nifty little circuit. And it was mounted on a board with a whole lot of prototyping area, so people could modify it. It was a very, very simple circuit. The main thing was the shape of the board, which was with the logo, and there was a line, and the LED would light up your name on the line. And you can get that that was the Labitat guys who did this year's badge as well. And got that custom made in China with all the components and shipped to Denmark for 15 kroners a badge, which I think is absolutely mind-boggling how that can work. And it was a success, but of course we wanted to do more, of course, but small beginnings, of course. Oh, so we have some neighbors, as you might have seen. There's a house right over here, and we have very, very nice cooperation with some of the neighbors, and others are pretty pissed that we are too loud. Last year we had so much help from a local farmer called Peter, who lives south of here, He came by with his tractor to pull out the lorry, which came to pick up the tents and got stuck in mud because it was raining when we did the teardown. It got stuck twice, and he came by with a tractor and pulled it out. And without that, we would have been absolutely screwed. He really showed up when he was needed and has been very, very helpful and friendly and has all kinds of ideas for stuff. That is so very nice to be treated like that when you know absolutely nobody and are from Copenhagen and have practically never been on Bornholm. So that's very nice. Before we even arrived last year, before we even arrived to do build up, one of the neighbors had already called the police. He pre-complained before we even arrived. And there's a fair bit of I wouldn't say social engineering, but when you have to deal with the police, a lot comes down to their judgment of you. So if you have a good relationship with them, and have tried your hardest to leave contact information, do whatever you can to tell everybody you're going to be here, be kind to them, be polite, and crack a joke or two, and make sure you're on good footing with them. Everything is so much easier. I'm not the world's biggest fan of law enforcement in general, but these things require cooperation and patience and good relations, and I'm evidently pretty good at that. We last year got a few complaints, but the police had noted that we were here and that the neighbors were sensitive to noise, and that they might call, and they may have done, but the call never made it on to us. So that's very nice. They were also nice enough to give us a liquor license last year, which evidently somebody didn't read the rule book because they weren't supposed to. Those of you who saw the welcome talk last night know that we got a no this year when we tried to get a new liquor license for this year's event. And actually they said that we weren't supposed to have gotten one last year. This is a problem, of course, but we managed to talk to them and figure out a solution, which is the hexed tokens that you've seen, and that is also, of course, possible only because we have a good relationship with them. So that's nice. So the neighbors come in all sizes. We've already had. The bar had been open for 3 hours when the first very angry German guy was here on a bike last night, poking me with an umbrella, completely angry. And we cannot be here, this many people, without bothering some people. But they have to keep in mind that just because you took the ferry from Germany and rented a vacation house here does not guarantee a week of silence. This is a private property. Those are private properties. We are completely allowed to organize this, to have a festival here. And as long as we do our best to minimize any problems we cause, then there's no problem. There's nothing illegal. He can call the police 10 times a day if he wants. There's not going to be a problem. So it's just annoying for us that we bother people. We would much rather be on good terms with them. This year we got a mail a week or so before we got here from a union of people who own vacation houses here somewhere. I think maybe that group or maybe over here. And he wanted to know about our permits and how long we were allowed to make noise and stuff. And since this is a private property and this is a private event, then there is no permission needed other than the fact that we reported it to the police. There's no we have no curfew or no need to we have no need for permission. So we couldn't tell him anything other than just, we're sorry if we disturb you, but we are perfectly allowed to be here, and we will minimize any trouble we cause, but we cannot guarantee that there won't be noise, and you have no requirement for silence just because you are on Bornholm. We are gonna probably hear more from the neighbors this year, but we will try to be kind to them, and if not, they will just have to accept that it's not completely quiet here. Right, that was a quick walkthrough of 16. All in all, it went very well. People were very happy. We were about a little under 100 people here, and it was a nice, gentle start for the organizers. We were pretty overworked, but number of people was appropriate for a first event for us to get started on. A lot of the work last year could have been avoided with better systems, which is kind of half what this talk is about, because we of course after 16 had to change a lot of things for our for the next event. Not only adding new features to lighten the workload, but something as basic as the URL structure on our website. So last year we had bornhack.dk/schedule, and you want to keep the old content available, and we cannot use the same URL this year. So we had to break the URLs last year from last year, unfortunately. So we embedded the slug for the camp, so it's now bornhack.dk/bornhack2017/schedule and so on, which means we can have the old content permanently available, which is very nice. And other than that, a whole bunch of stuff, database-wise and stuff, had to be related to a new camp model, like a table of camps we added. So most things like a ticket and a speaker and an event and the stuff on the info page and the sponsors and all that are now all in the database related to a specific camp. So when we are done with 2017, we can start adding stuff for 18 easily, and everything will just kind of keep working. This has been a pretty big rewrite. All of this is open source, of course. It's on GitHub, and it is pretty funny to watch the commits, because when at 8:30 last night, when we started the registration, the wristband handing out, there was a commit like 8:28 or something, fixing something so we could check people in. And today, when we had to hand out the badges 2 minutes before, or actually 2 minutes after, I think there was another commit doing something. I mean, there's rough edges here and there, but fortunately, all the people who did it are part of the core organizer team and can easily deploy a quick fix. So we can check in a sponsor ticket or hand out a badge, register who got the badge handed out and stuff like that. Django is awesome for this. If you haven't used it, it is very flexible and very nice to use once you get used to it. When we switched, when we reworked the website, we also switched to Python 3 and stopped using uWhisky to serve it, and started using Django's own something called channels, which is Django's WebSocket server. We started using Django channels, which comes with a WebSocket server called Daphne, which can replace uWSGI. So, and we also switched to Python 3, which is required because of some of the new stuff we are doing. Well, actually, because of the IRC bot that it grew. I noticed that it hasn't actually worked, but it was supposed to be announcing the talks in the channel. I'll go look at that later. But since it has a full database of all the events and stuff, and it's sitting on the public channel, then it is obvious that it can announce news items and talks and stuff like that very easily. And it requires async IO, which is Python 3 only. So we had to do a switch. It wasn't that much of a hassle, but now it's done. That's very nice. We also added event and speaker and event management, so people can submit their own speakers and events. So if you have some of you are speakers, you will have seen this system. It makes it a lot easier to handle. At least that was the intention. We kind of only got halfway there. We got it done so people can submit stuff, but the backend is not quite as slick as it could be. But since it is all in a database and all very manageable, then they can be added for next year, improving the back office function, the management systems, also for stuff like checking in users, and for me to look at the economy. It is hard to know. I cannot just look at the bank account and see how much money we have, because if people bought rented tents, then all of those money goes to the tent guy and not to us. And if people bought merchandise, it goes to the merchandise delivery guys and not to us. It's only tickets really, and very few other things where we actually get the money for the budget. And we have no easy way of seeing that. So we need a lot of back office functions, but we've come a long way by adding this. And it also means that we don't have to separately manage what has been submitted and what has been added to the website. And if we fix a typo in one, we have to do all that stuff. There's definitely basis for it to become a lot easier. We also got a new schedule, which is the reason we started using Django channels, which is Django's WebSocket support project. Video is not here, but he recently rewrote the front end for the schedule in Elm, which is pretty awesome. It is not entirely perfect, but it works, and it is the schedule you're using when you're looking at the production website today. So if you view the source for that and try to find the JavaScript, you have like a 70,000 line JavaScript file, which says function 1, and then a bracket function 2, and a bracket function 3, and so on. And it's pretty horrible to look at, but it works very well, and it's very slick, and the source code is pretty nice. So, and then you compile it into this horrible blob of JavaScript. But it works well, and it's very nice to have WebSocket support, because we can do stuff like push out notifications. If you're sitting on the program, we can easily like make a box move around if the talk is rescheduled and stuff like that, because we have two-way communication. And it's also nice for a whole bunch of other stuff. And now the support is there, it's very easy to add new things. Channels is, I mean, I didn't feel like it was that new when we started using it, but apparently we hit some edge cases or something, or maybe people are not using it in production. But we started using it like for real, like in production. You need syslog support. You need some way to monitor that it keeps running. Everything you need when you drive run a proper production infrastructure. And log files, of course, needs to reflect the IP addresses of the users. But we were sitting behind a reverse proxy that terminates TLS and stuff, and I was getting the proxy IP and not the client IP in my log files, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why, because I was sending all the right headers. But it turned out to be a bug in Daphne where something wasn't being converted from bytes to Unicode or whatever the hell it was, and then it didn't recognize the header, and then it just showed the proxy server's IP, which means that for a couple of weeks we had logging with the wrong IP addresses and stuff like that. That is of course not good when you have a whole bunch of hackers visiting your website daily. So we've while developing the website, I managed to close a few bugs in some side Django projects, which is always nice. We are very happy about this, to use the software, so of course it is always awesome when you can close a bug or two. Oh wait, I have that twice. Nice. One of the things I didn't consider that much when we started is how much time the organizers spent together, and how much we knew each other pretty well. We've been going, like I said, for years and years to hacker camps together, and staying together in a tent for a week, and going back and forth and packing and unpacking, all that. You're tired and you're hungover and you're like stressed out and stuff, and so we all know each other pretty well already. But organizing something like this means like meeting 6 months before starting meetings, and even when you're busy at work, and even if you are not feeling like it, we need to start talking to the fire department to get permission, so we need to do whatever the hell. You really, really get to know people by doing this, and fortunately we have a group of people who are able to work together even in stressful situations. And even though you can fall out sometimes, of course you do that. I mean, everybody does that, families and marriages, and everybody has fallouts, but we managed to quickly get back on our feet, and we got all this up and running, and that's a testament to that the organizing team is made up of awesome people that are awesome to work with. There's no better way of saying it, I think. And you do have to be good. You do have to be good at personalities and good at talking to people and good at communication. Is one of the key things here. I mean, all the things that have gone wrong, like that maybe the organizers notice these things more than the participants, fortunately. But all the stuff that has gone wrong has been due to miscommunication. It hasn't been like accidents or something breaking or something. It's always because we haven't talked properly, and we are pretty good at it. So if you have a group that cannot communicate properly, then this would be an impossible mission. So the mere fact that we are standing here, the speaker tent is built, and everything is more or less working, that speaks volumes about the people behind it. So that is very nice. I think I'm just about to wrap up. We of course in the very early stages of 2017, we could get rained away, or we could get very angry neighbors, or a whole bunch of other things could go wrong. But for now, it's a success. Just getting people here and being here and having completed the first 24 hours plus a few hours, and without major incident. As organizers, it's of course you can relax and of course you can enjoy it, but you always have in the back of your head that like an angry German guy might show up and start prodding you with an umbrella in the middle of the night, just when you got your first drink in your hand, or a million other things. But it's it's all worth it. It's all worth it because of all the happy people here. Questions? Yes? Sure. Sure. I've built payment systems for years through work and stuff, and I've used ePay a lot, and they are pretty easy to work with. Their stuff is easy to implement, and their backend stuff is nice. You can, when you're doing accounts and stuff, it might look slick, but if you can't get like a nice CSV with the stuff to send to your bookkeeper, and a very nice product can easily be destroyed by having shit management functions or back office functions. But ePay is very nice in that regard. We can easily go and reverse a transaction if somebody paid and regrets going. Of course, you always have a few of those because they suddenly can't go or whatever. That works very well. You do need a payment agreement with somebody, but we use a clearinghouse called they actually called Clearhouse, which is like an intermediary. But that does mean, because we are a small company and there's a risk that we can cancel, there's always a risk that we can cancel. I was like, no, we are not going to cancel. But they're like, okay, so what if the ferry and the airport stops operating the day before? There's always, what if a meteor hits Bornholm and the whole island disappears? There's always a chance of canceling, which means that it's literally what she said. And I had to agree with her. Of course, there is a chance, even though it is pretty remote. Which means that in case we do cancel, and then Alex and I and Henrik, who are the legal people behind the company, behind Bornhack, close up shop, take the money out of the bank and go to Haiti to get drunk. Then technically all of you who paid with cards will of course reverse your charges, and then the payment provider will be stuck with the bill because they cannot get money out of a company that's declared itself bankrupt and is closed. So they do not want this risk, especially since 2008. There's a lot of rules regarding how much risk they are allowed to take, and so they're very strict about that. And because we are a new company and we are an IVS, so we have no capital in the company. We had no startup money or anything. I think we put in 250 kroners each. So the total capital of the company when we started was 750 kroners. So and they of course realized that we cannot refund 50,000 kroners worth of tickets with a capital of 750. So all the money that we make by card payments on the website are held back until after Bornhack, which is why we have a big notice on the website saying, please do not use card payments because they are expensive and difficult for us to handle. Last year we had to borrow some money to get enough cash flow fortunately most of the big bills are after the event. It's stuff like paying the bar providers and paying for electricity and paying for the crafts people, the electricians, the plumbers and stuff like that. They all come like in a month or 2 months. So we will have gotten the card payment money by then. But it's a real problem for a small company not to have cash flow because you need money to build. I mean, I cannot build a festival if I'm only receiving the money after the festival is over. That's obvious. So of course we recommend using either the bank transfer or the blockchain Bitcoin payment because we get the money right away then. But having said that, ePay is very nice, but you do need your own payment agreement or you need to use somebody like Clearhouse, and you can spend from now till eternity arguing with them. You will not get the money out of them after the event. I have tried. So, but it is a nice provider. Coinify is a very nice blockchain provider. They also have a decent interface, not as slick as ePay, but it is a very new field and the competition is nowhere near. I mean, ePay has 10 competitors in Denmark alone. They absolutely survive on having awesome administrative functions and stuff like that. Coinify exists on the basis that they are more or less the only provider that has stuff that's easy to integrate in web shops, both in like Presto and e-commerce or whatever they're called, the big ready-made web shop solutions. Coinify has plugins for all of those, so they're easy to get up and running, and their API is very, very easy to work with. But I mean, they could have a complete shit backend and we would still have to use them because I mean, they're pretty alone on the market. So if anybody is looking to start a company, a blockchain payment service provider would not be a bad idea. But they are very nice to use as well. Bank transfers are at the moment our best and worst payment method because for Danish people it is absolutely awesome. We get the money. We have the instant transfers in Denmark now, so we get the money like right away, not even the next day, but like seconds after the transfer is made, and you always get the exact correct amount. When dealing with foreigners, bank transfers suck because it is completely unclear how much fee you run into and who is going to pay it, and each bank has a different way of displaying it, and not all banks have all the options. So I could write 10 kilometers of text which would never be read, but I could with directions, and it would still be just a toss-up how much money we receive. I mean, it's up to 50, 60 kroners missing in fees when we receive a payment sometimes. And I mean, I could to reject that payment, I would have to transfer the money back and use another 50 kroner and say you didn't transfer enough, and he would have, or I would have to reject the payment somehow and say you need to transfer more money, and it just sucks. I mean, I have the only option I really have is marking the order as paid anyway, even though we didn't receive the full amount, and I have to talk to our annoying ass accountant woman about getting corrected all those missing amounts. Yeah, it sucks. I wish, and SEPA transfers were supposed to fix this, but they are in euro only because, that's what they're for. And we of course do not use euros in Denmark, so there's a conversion fee. So even though we would take SEPA payments, all our prices and stuff are in Danish, but if we hypothetically, if we would convert that amount in the end to euros and say transfer this, then we would still be stuck with a conversion fee in the end and still not get the full amount. I have no good solutions to this. I've spoken to the guys doing EMF and a guy doing SHA, and they have like exactly the same problem. It's just basically sucks ass. It's very nice for local, for in the same country, but it's very shit when going abroad. And cash is pretty awesome. I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but we added a cash option, and we basically just if you can find an organizer, just go mark your order as cash, and bring your order ID and bring the money, give them to the organizer, and he will put them in the bank, and you can and mark the order as paid, and that works well. People who are privacy conscious, they can just, find somebody they don't even need. You can use a disposable email to register in the system and buy a ticket and pay it in cash when you get here, and we have absolutely no idea who you are, and we couldn't care less. So that was a bit about payment systems. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.